Baseball is upon us. The Mariners are playing a game on Saturday, and everyone's getting their work in down in Arizona now, so it's going to be a good week. Let's kick things off by opening up the mailbag. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Monday, February 19th, 2024. This is Ty Gonzalez and Colby Batnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn, that's LOCKEDON, to get yourself started. Thank you so much for making us your first listen. Subscribe, like, and turn on alerts if you're watching on YouTube, or subscribe and leave a 5-star review on your preferred podcast platform if you like what you hear. And if you're part of the crew and rock with us every single day, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. And if you want to hear from us even more, please consider signing up for our Patreon. You can now get a free 7-day trial to check out the show. The link, as well as our social accounts, is in the description of this episode. And this is Mailbag Monday, the show where we answer your Mariners questions. Be sure to stick around a little later on because we're going to be announcing our next big giveaway. But first, we're going to get into this question from Steve. Which Mariner who hasn't had a fWAR season in their career is most likely to in 2024? Logan Gilbert. Next question.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, Julio's had 2, Cal's had 2, JP had it last year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Who else? Castillo's had 1, Kirby's had 1. I think has Kirby had 1? I think he 20 last year or this year he was
4.4 last year.
Yeah, we got to start saying last year now because we've officially switched over to the 2024 season. How about
That's
that?
Right. That's right.
So yeah, it's Gilbert. I can't even think of anybody else who's like even kind of a fringe like contender, like maybe Luke Raley if he gets enough plate appearances, but like no, it's Logan Gilbert. I mean, it's Logan Gilbert. Logan Gilbert, and then it's like a huge gap, and then it's whoever your number 2 is. Like,
right.
Gilbert is the guy who's, if there's somebody who's never done it before that's going to do it this year, it's definitely Logan Gilbert.
Yeah. All right. Tyler wants to know, what will be the offensive philosophy differences in 24 compared to last year with the changes to the coaching staff? And I think he's more so focused here on Brant Brown, of course. So Colby, what do you think?
Nothing. It's interesting. You know, I was on with Ben Ranieri on his podcast last week, and he
Sea level subset.
Sea level. Yep. And he had mentioned that that around the league, one of the weaknesses that other teams saw in the Mariners operation is offensive game planning. Like they just kind of, everybody kind of does their own thing, and there's not like a uniform approach to hitting at the major league level. And so I think that's part of it. I think there's going to be more of a conscious effort to, you know, really understand the team dynamic against the pitcher versus the individual. But I don't know how much of this is going to actually have to do with coaching. I just think the fact that they've spread out the strikeout rate a little bit this winter is going to help things because, you know, when you look at last year's team, they knew they were going to strike out quite a bit.
Yeah.
They thought they were going to hit for more power.
Yeah, you don't have 4 guys in the lineup stacked on top of one another that are running a 27+% K rate anymore.
Right. I mean, well, even last year it was Teoscar, it was, you know, Kelnick, Ford.
Yeah.
Raleigh still strikes out a little bit. So obviously Gino strikes out a ton. Like you were running 4 or 5, sometimes 6 guys in a row that were 28, 29, 30% strikeout rates. That's just not going to be the case this year. So there's more of an emphasis on putting the ball in play. But I think they still obviously are going to chase, you know, home runs. They still want power. I think it's more just a tweak of, you know, how we go about scoring runs. There's more than one way to score runs. And last year's team was pretty much, if they hit a home run, they had a good shot to win the game. If they didn't, they weren't going to manufacture runs. They weren't going to, you know, hit the big single with runners on second and third. Like they were going to try and do damage, or they were going to strike out. And I think that's the difference this year. You look at a lot of the guys they brought in, you know, Jorge Polanco, not a strikeout problem. Mitch Garver, not a strikeout problem. You know, and that doesn't mean they've completely ignored guys who do have some strikeouts in their past. Luke Raley strikes out a little bit. He's not going to play a ton, but Sebi Zavala strikes out quite a bit. But Urias doesn't, and Haniger doesn't. Like they've done a good job of spreading out the strikeouts so they're not all in a row. But I think it's more just about having a cohesive game plan and understanding, an understanding of like what we need in this situation versus
Yeah.
what the individual's goal is in that situation. I think that's mostly what Brant Brown's idea is, or what his job is with the Mariners. Just kind of enforce this idea that, like, if you don't have to try and hit the 97-mile-an-hour fastball an inch off the outside corner into the left field bleachers for a home run. Sometimes you just got to push that thing through the right side and move the runner up. So I think it's more about that, but they're going to strike out still some. They're going to try and hit home runs. Like they're still chasing that stuff, but it's just more of a controlled, effort than last year where it was just kind of flailing wildly at times.
Yeah, you still have high strikeout guys in your lineup, but not as many. So that helps. And it became abundantly clear over the course of this past season that the Mariners really didn't have much situational awareness offensively. So hopefully bringing in someone like Brant Brown helps with that. And the guy that I'm going to be looking at the most is Julio. Because Julio last year, what did we talk about? A lot of the times, big moments in games, he's trying to swing out of his shoes. He's trying to do way too much. When Brant Brown went on the radio a few weeks back and he talked about sometimes we just need a single. We don't need to hit the ball over the wall. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I think he's talking directly about Julio.
Right. And I think part of that, though, is also that, hey, you know what? When Julio has Mitch Garver hitting behind him and Jorge Polanco hitting behind him, some of that pressure, like if I don't get the big hit, the guys behind me can. Whereas last year it's Teoscar who's running a 35% strikeout rate for half the year. It's Gino who's running a 33% strikeout rate. Like, I have to do this because I can't trust the guys behind me to do it. And I think it's just about keeping the line going. So we'll see. I don't know if the offense is going to score more runs than last year. They could. I wouldn't be shocked. But I think it's just about scoring them more consistently. Like you'd rather score 4 runs in back-to-back games than score 8 runs on one night and 0 the next.
Yeah, and that's what they did a lot last year was here's a big blow-up game where they score 14 runs against the White Sox or whatever, and then the next night, here's 1 run against and this didn't actually happen, but I'm just using him for the sake of the example, like Vince Velasquez or some mid pitcher, right? So...
Right, and when you swing and miss as much as the Mariners did, you have a high variance of results. So... I think, if you're averaging right around 5 runs a game with your pitching, you're going to win a ton of baseball games. And I think it's just kind of, the idea is just to kind of be able to rely on your offense to consistently score 4 or 5 runs every single night.
Yeah. And sometimes even 3 is going to get the job done for you with this pitching staff in particular. All right. We're going to answer more of your questions and announce our next big giveaway in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. With football officially in the books and some time before baseball gets underway, why don't you try your hand at betting on some hoops? Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. That's FanDuel.com/LOCKDON. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen. And as a reminder, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And before we get back into your questions here on Mailbag Monday, we got a new giveaway starting today. Colby, tell the fine listeners all about it because you're giving away more of your stuff. I'm not contributing at all.
Because why would he? Why would he ever?
Right.
Ty,
you're the man of the people. You're the self-proclaimed man of the people. So I'm letting you
I
do
think
your
that's
thing.
established at this point. Ty's wearing a San Francisco Giants hat, for crying out loud. To be fair, I'm wearing a Kansas City Monarchs hat. So
Right.
But hey, I mean, come on. So this is kind of an interesting giveaway. So make sure you guys check out the the terms in the
we gotta remind you legally.
Yes.
Terms and conditions down in the description.
Yes, there's a link down there in the description. Click it if you want the exact details. But basically, this is what's going to happen. Right now, Ty and I are at 10,761 subs on YouTube. We would love to be at 11K by opening day. 11, of course, a very special number. No matter what happens, I will be giving away this Mitch Garver autographed, numbered, double jersey patch card, and also this Jared Kelnick, some old Mariners, some new Mariners, autographed, numbered card. Those are going to one of you guys no matter what. But every time we break over a new level of 100 or a new plateau of 100, we will add more stuff to the giveaway. So once we get to, for example, when we get to 10,800, if we're so lucky, I will be throwing in this autograph Randy Wynn card and this lovely Bowman Chrome Harry Ford card, not autographed. If we get to 10,900, I'll throw in more stuff. And Ty's heard some of the stuff that I'm willing to throw in the pot here.
Yeah.
It's going to get big. So the more people who subscribe, the higher the subscriber count go, the more of my things I have to give away to you folks. Right. I have some bobbleheads. I have some in-stadium giveaways. I have lots of cards, and they're all on the table. And we will announce what the next level is once we get to the next level. So I'll tell you guys what the 10,900 level will be if we get to 10,800. To enter is very simple. All you have to do is make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and leave a comment down below. You can comment up to 5 times, or you can comment on up to 5 different videos to enter the contest. The contest runs between now and the last day of February. We will pick the winner on March 1st and announce them here. You'll have 1 week to claim the prize, at which point we'll send you the stuff. And depending on how many of you guys subscribe to the channel, that's how much of my stuff you'll give away. And like I said, Ty has heard the list of things that I have purchased and that I own that I am willing to throw.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that you're going to give away your credit card information at 12,000 subs.
I mean, it's not going to do them a lot of good, but sure, I guess. But anyways, make sure you guys check out the terms and conditions in the link down below. But just win some of my stuff just by leaving a comment and making sure you're subscribed to the channel. It's very standard contest, but only one person is going to win all of these items. So make sure you enter up to 5 times.
There we go. All right, let's get back into your questions. Olivia wants to know, throughout the off season, you guys and other Mariners media / commentators seem much more willing to trade Mariners prospects currently in AA or AAA, maybe contributing this or next year, than the prospects drafted in 2023. Now the 2023 draft prospects seem collectively ranked very high as opposed to prior draft year prospects. Why? Less time to fail to reach their potential, very strong draft class for 2023, or something else going on? Thank you. I mean, part of it has to be because you had essentially 3 first-round draft picks. That helps, right? Why else do you think that this draft class is regarded very highly, Colby?
The 2023 class?
Yeah.
Because you had 3 first-round draft picks.
Right. Are there any other reasons, though?
I mean, the draft class itself is interesting, but it starts at the top. I mean, Johnny Farmello, Ty Pete and Colt Emerson are all carry like all-star ceiling. And for somebody like Farmello and Pete, like there might be more there. It's a small chance, but there might be like 7-win seasons in those guys. They are freak athletes. So but that's part of it. The 2023 class is a good one. The other part is that you don't want to sell low on these guys. And it seems counterintuitive. It seems like, well, their value is, can never be, like they're so like unknown right after they're drafted, right? Like, could their value actually get higher? And yes, the closer you get to the big leagues with success, the higher your value is. So you don't want to trade these guys for 70 cents now when you can wait 6 months and trade them for $1.10.
Well, and I would add on that, we heard Justin Hollander talk about a month ago about what the what the vibe is around the league right now. With just in terms of trades and how teams right now don't really want lower level prospects. They want guys that are in AA, AAA, guys that are close to the big leagues.
Right. And I think part of the reason why, we've been much more willing to trade guys like Locklear and Gonzalez and Bliss, even guys like that who, mostly Locklear and Bliss here, who could help you at some point this year, is because the Mariners 26-man roster right now, pretty young. I mean, there's obviously some vets here and there, but like it's a pretty young roster. There's not any glaring, need. Like, how many things have to go wrong, or I guess right, depending on your perspective, for Ryan Bliss to get a shot this year? Quite a bit. Like Ty Locklear is no sure thing to come up at any point this year. We'll have to see what Ty does and all that. So I think you just look at and we'll talk about this starting tomorrow because it's prospect week here on Locked On. So we'll be doing our top 30 over the next 3 days.
Yep. Tomorrow we're going to be doing prospects 30 through 21. On Wednesday, we're going to be doing prospects 20 through 11. And then Thursday, we're going to wrap things up with prospects 10 through 1. So look forward to that.
Right. I would just put it like this. If Colt Emerson has another year like he had last year, and last year was just a cup of coffee, right? He is worth at least twice as much as he is today next winter. Maybe 3 times, depending on how well it goes. Like, you just don't want to sell these guys right away because you never know what you're giving up. You want to see these guys. You want to develop them. And like Ty said, the league just really isn't all that interested in these guys who are 2, 3, 4 years away because 25 of the 30 teams think that they could sneak into the wild card at least this year. It's just, there's just not a lot of value to those guys. And so, it's interesting Hollander said that, and then he immediately went out and he traded for, Polanco and Santos shortly after, but
using Darren Bowen and Gabriel Gonzalez.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, for Santos, it did take Prolander Barreau and Zach DeLoach, 2 guys who are, 40-man guys. They can help you at the major league level. So, most of it is just, it's where the market is right now. They want close to MLB ready guys if they're going to give up guys from their major league roster, which, kind of hard to blame them because basically all but 4 or 5 teams are going to be contenders into July for a playoff spot. So we'll see, but that's mostly it. You don't want to sell low on those guys. And also the league just isn't all that interested in those players. They want those guys at a discount. And if you're the Mariners, you're not giving up those guys at a discount. Why would you?
Right. All right, next question here from Joel. Of these 3, Jorge Polanco, Mitch Garver, and Mitch Haniger, who will have the most plate appearances in 2024? I think in that order. If you're going top to bottom, I think Polanco, Garver, Haniger. I think that's where I'm at.
I think so. I'm fairly confident that Garver and Polanco are going to get 500-ish plate appearances each. I'd be thrilled if Haniger got over 300. Like, that would be awesome.
The fact that he's going to have to play in the field is what really concerns me. Like, he's going to have to play in the field quite a bit to get into the lineup. Because again, Garver's going to be DHing, and I don't think that they're going to entertain playing Garver at first base. So if he's not DHing, he's catching, and I really don't want him catching. So
I think the order that they were listed is probably the correct order. We'll say this though: Haniger doesn't tend to get hurt in the field. Like, he had a oblique thing that was diving back into a base. He broke his toe, rolled his ankle. Like, the other
some
injury,
other things,
those all happen at the batter's box, but obviously there's a wear and tear.
I'm just talking about the wear and tear. That's what ultimately concerns me there.
So I think it's like, if you're just betting, I think Polanco and Garver like far outpace Haniger. I wouldn't be shocked if Garver has more plate appearances. Like, I'm oddly comfortable with Garver's health, assuming that he pretty much exclusively DHs. So
I guess bold prediction, hot take. I think Mitch Garver is going to play 120 games this year.
I guess that is technically a hot take, but I feel pretty it's weird. I would project that. Like, I'd be like, I think he's going to play 120.
Because I don't think that he's actually going to be catching, and I don't think they're going to play him at first base. And even if Sebi Zavala doesn't work out at backup catcher, I think they go to Blake Hunt first before they entertain Garver being the second catcher essentially on the roster.
Right. I mean, Garver might get a start or 2 early as they kind of phase him into just like DH only, but I'd be pretty surprised if he caught more than 10, 15 games this year. And even that it's a little aggressive for my blood, but he feels to me like he should be the emergency catcher only. Just not because he can't catch, but because I want to keep him healthy.
Yes. Absolutely. And again, talking about wear and tear, there's no position that brings more wear and tear than catching.
Right. Just throw this out there, break glass in case of emergency. If Cal Raleigh, God forbid, has to go on the IL for 2 months, then you might roll with Garber
Right.
a lot more behind the dish and just kind of roll those dice. But assuming Cal is healthy enough to play, Garber's going to be the primary DH. So I think I feel really confident Garber's going to play 120 games.
Yeah, because you're probably not going to want Sebi Zavala in the lineup pretty much every day if Cal gets hurt. And I think Blake Hunt can, I think Blake Hunt can hit a little bit, but I don't know if that's
you don't want to run. You don't want to risk that.
Yeah,
you don't want him to be the number one.
Right. Yeah. So just so I can keep Garber at the DH spot. Yeah. All right. We're going to answer a few more of your questions in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into an MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Again, that is ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen here on Mailbag Monday. Got a couple more of your questions coming up here. We got one from Mark. Do you think it means anything that Cole Young and Harry Ford will reportedly be getting a very good look in Major League Spring Training this year? Or is it just as simple as getting them some higher level opponents? Colby?
It means absolutely nothing.
What about the whole Harry Ford might play in the field a little bit thing?
It means absolutely nothing.
Okay, but why would they want to do that?
So that people like you ask that question.
Gotcha. Just to bait me into it. Yeah.
Yes. So Ford and Young almost certainly going to see AA at some point this year.
Yeah.
And maybe to start the year. Seems more likely for Ford that he would start in AA, but you can't rule it out for Young either. So
I think they might, because I think they were considering it towards the end of this
past year. They thought about giving him a cup of coffee there. So we'll see, but there's nothing wrong with starting him in Everett and giving him a month or two. Yeah. Either way, barring injury, he's going to see AA at some point this year.
Yep.
So it makes sense. These are the type of guys that you use like late in spring training games that, in here starting on Saturday, probably by the fourth inning, you're going to see these guys in games as they kind of ease the vets in. But I think that's just natural. These are guys in AA. They have an outside shot, particularly Young, of coming up to the big leagues at some point this year. And these are the guys that you give those opportunities to. So I don't think it's really anything like they really want to see what they have there, or like, we think they have an outside shot to make the club in like May. Like, I don't think it's anything like that. I think it's just like, yeah, this is about the time of, their progression where they're going to play a lot in spring training because, for the first couple of weeks, at least the starters are only going to play half the game at most. So right. I think that's just what that's about is, they're going to get a lot of at-bats because they're going to be, joining the big league squad on game day, and they're going to be, first guys off the bench types. And then probably you'll see some of the younger guys, the last year's draftees, they'll probably get a Cactus League at-bat or two at some point. But guys like Young, guys like Ford, these are guys who are not quite knocking on the door of the big leagues, but they're getting really close, right? They're walking up the driveway, like they're getting there. So you get these guys at bats because that's what you do. And, if you can find a way to give them maybe Cole Young gets a random start in a Cactus League game against I don't know, you want to give him a shot, but maybe it's a Cactus, like he gets a random Cactus League start when Zach Gallen's on the mound for his 3-inning start. Like, who knows? Right. So it's just the timing of where they're at in their careers. This is about the right time to start doing stuff like that.
All right. Next question here from David. Rank these in terms of confidence to happen in 2024. Ty France has the best WRC plus season of his career. Mitch Haniger plays a minimum of 110 games with at least a 120 WRC plus. Julio wins MVP. Urias and Rojas combine have a better WRC plus than Gino. The Mariners have 3 pitchers in the top 10 in AL Cy Young Award voting. And the Mariners will make a big splash trade at the deadline. And I'm going to leave this up on the screen for us just so we remember. So I'm going to go number 1. Mariners have 3 pitchers in the top 10 in AL Cy Young voting. Feel pretty good about that.
Agreed.
Number 2, I'm going to go with the Urias and Rojas one, actually.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd probably go Julio wins MVP, number 2.
I was going to go with that for number 3. Because there's Judge, there's Soto, there's Bobby Witt. I would also throw Adley into the mix.
You mean poor man's Cal Raleigh?
Right.
Right. Yeah, so for me, it goes number 5 is pretty clear. The 3 pitchers in the top 10. That one's number 1 with a bullet for me. Number 2 is probably Julio. And then I think number 3 is the Urias Rojas combo. I am pretty happy with that duo. I feel like they're both good players who are coming off of years that are pretty easy to explain why there were struggles.
Yeah. I think Splash Trade comes in at number 4.
Yeah, I think so. I could go either way with Ty France or that, though.
I'm going to go France 5 and then Haniger 6.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if Haniger plays 110 games.
Yeah.
So that one's definitely.
And if he does, I feel like WRC Plus is probably going to be more around 105 to 115, which I know is a large range, but I don't think it's going to be 120 is the point.
Yeah. So I think, if you're watching, you can just follow along with the numbers here. I would say it goes 5, 3, 4, 6, 1, 2.
Last question of the day comes from Rye. How long is the leash on Ty France this year? With Tyler Locklear on the verge of the majors with the deadline, will the deadline be when they make a potential change? Does Locklear even have a shot at the majors if France is good this year? If France is good this year, I don't see it because Locklear is not a third baseman.
No.
So I don't really see how he factors in. If Garver is healthy, if France is healthy, and obviously they have to perform as well on top of that. But if those things are happening, I just don't see how Locklear factors in at all.
No. This, by the way, is even assuming that Locklear is playing well.
Right. There's that too.
Yeah. Not only
is there a certain point where maybe he forces their hand?
No. I mean, if Ty France is like an 80 WRC plus bat and Locklear is just like, whatever, 150, like 160, then like maybe. But if France is even hovering around league average, then I don't see anything short of injury that's going to, force the Mariners' hand because you're still going to trust Ty France more than you're going to trust Locklear. So unless the Mariners are just like out of it in August and they're like, yeah, might as well, we'll see what happens.
Right.
I don't really see a path at the big leagues this year, barring injury for somebody like Locklear. It's just, we've talked a lot about this, like guys who have one path to the big leagues.
Yeah.
This is why there's risk in those profiles.
And you have so many corner / DH guys right now on the roster that it just it's really hard to fit another one of those guys on there.
Right.
Because it's like, all right, if let's say that France is performing and healthy, Garver's performing and healthy, Mitch is performing and healthy, all that is happening. And even if one of those guys that's not the case for, and you want to call up Tyler Locklear, whose spot is he taking? Right? Is he taking Dylan Moore's spot?
No. Like Locklear's not even a guy who can fake it at another spot. He's first base only.
Yeah. I guess the answer there would be one of the guys over at third base, Rojas or Urias. But I think at that point you're more so looking at Samad Taylor, Ryan Bliss, etc.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's much more likely Locklear is traded at the deadline than he becomes the new first baseman at the deadline.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I still like the prospect. It just I don't see a path to the big leagues this year. And I'll do you one better. If Ty France is pretty good this year, I don't see a path to the big leagues next year either. Because I don't think they're going to non-tender Ty France to give the job to Locklear. I mean,
Right.
maybe we're wrong. Maybe Locklear is like one of the 10 best hitters in the minor leagues this year, and you kind of have to find a way to get him on your lineup. But
Right.
until he does it, I'm not willing to bet on it. So
It's a good problem to have, though.
I mean, yeah, in theory, it is. You'd rather. I mean, I think you would rather Ty France just be like a 125 WRC plus guy.
Yeah.
Than just be like, well, if he fails, we have Locklear. Like, no. Ty France should just succeed. That'd be great, right?
No, I mean,
fun.
like, if it gets to a point where it's like, all right, Locklear is playing well, but how do I get him on the roster?
Yeah,
like that's a good problem to have.
And that's when you trade him.
Right. All right.
Mhm.
So that is going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Ty Gonzalez, Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. Thank you again for making us your first listen. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.